Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan.
I'm Jordan.
And today we're going to be talking about the DLC for The Walking Dead Season 1 called 400 Days.
Yep. So jumping in, the description of this is centered on a truck stop on a Georgia highway. This DLC episode for Season 1 of The Walking Dead by Telltale Games tells 5 linked stories of survival in the wake of the zombie apocalypse. From day 1 of the undead plague to 400 days later, The Walking Dead 400 Days offers more of the horror and human drama of Robert Kirkman and Telltale's award-winning series. Echoes of the choices you made in Season 1 will carry over into 400 Days, and the choices you make in 400 Days will resonate into Season 2.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, yeah, the way that this story is really told is there's 5 pictures on a bulletin board, and you can pick each one, and as you do it, you'll kind of get the story of that character at some point within the first 400 days of the apocalypse. And you can actually do it in any order that you like, so you can play it however you want, but the way we decided to recap it was the earliest chronologically to the latest, just because, I don't know, I feel like there's little things you can kind of see along the way when you do it that way, but, again, you can really play it however you want.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the way I played it was not in chronological order. I definitely bounced around, for sure.
I think I played in chronological order, so I don't know what happens because since they're connected, if you don't do chronological order, how does it know like some of the choices you've made?
I think I think it's more that you wouldn't catch things, or maybe they auto choose them if it would involve it. Like there's I did, what was it? So I did I'm trying to think of someone who goes through multiple stories, like how Nate shows up in a few of them. I think I played Russell's story before Wyatt's or something like that. So it didn't like change it, but they, I probably would have understood a little more or noticed things a little more.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess with that though, we'll start from the beginning with Vince's story. And his story takes place largely on day 2. It actually starts a little pre-apocalypse, but that's for, I don't know, a minute maybe. Which is that pre-apocalypse, Vince shoots an unseen man and ditches his gun as he escapes. So he shoots someone and he's like, "Stop messing with my little brother." And the guy's like, "I don't know your brother." And Vince just shoots him and runs off. As Vince runs into the alley, there's a bunch of different ways he can ditch his gun. I think you can throw it in like a sewer, in a trash can, on a roof. Ultimately, your gun gets found.
Yeah.
And you pick up with Vince on a prison bus on the way to jail. And there's heavy traffic. The bus is just stopped on the highway. There's just cars everywhere and just waiting to be put into prison.
Yeah, so at this point, if you were like going to prison forever, do you think you'd rather have there be a zombie apocalypse, or do you think you'd rather go to prison?
I kind of feel like I would rather be already in prison, like you see in Walking Dead, the show,
Yeah.
where there's some inmates who are already there. And I think I'd kind of like that because I feel like you could actually defend a prison. But I think what I most wouldn't want is being in transit anywhere. Like, that seems like a good way to be one of the first zombies.
That's fair. I mean, I guess that is a good way based on what we see here.
It just seems like anywhere where, like, you're not safe, like, you're in a less secure place, like, it just seems like bad shit can happen easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you? What would you choose in that?
I mean, I think I guess it depends on how long I was going to jail for. If I was going for, like, life, I would probably take my chances anywhere. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I'd rather have there be an apocalypse versus going to jail forever. So I think I'd rather almost take my chances like on a bus as opposed to being in prison forever.
Sure. No, that's fair. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So here we've got Vince hanging out in his bus, his jail bus, and he's talking with two inmates. He's in the middle, and there's an inmate in front of him and one behind him. And one inmate's name is Justin. He went to jail for some white-collar crime. It essentially seemed to be kind of like a pyramid scheme that really worked, and he got away with a bunch of money. And then there's Danny, who I think is in jail for having a girlfriend who's not 18. Or I guess whatever underage is in Georgia. And that's why he's in jail?
Yeah, I don't think they ever explicitly say. But yeah, I think you're right. It's something to do with
yeah, that was the vibe I had. It was a little hard to tell. It wasn't quite explicit, but it was like, you seem kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
So you guys are talking. Meanwhile, there's two other inmates towards the front of the bus, and one of the inmates is complaining about wanting water, that it's really hot, why aren't we moving, that kind of shit. And the inmate behind him is this like huge dude who's like, shut the fuck up. And the guy keeps talking, so the inmate behind him decides to kill him with his restraints on his hands and just like chokes him out with the chain and kills him. Yeah, which is nuts. I'm guessing that guy is not as strange to killing people since he did it in this situation. It was pretty wild. You're just like, holy shit.
Yeah, seems like an extreme response to someone complaining.
Right. Meanwhile, there's two police officers in the front of the bus, and like the door is like a gated door kind of thing. And one of the police officers comes in and is like, what the fuck's going on? And, you know, we and our group of people are like, stop him. He shouldn't. He's like killing him. So the police officer runs in and just shoots the inmate who did the choking. And
It's just kind of crazy, too.
Just shoots him in the face with a shotgun. And you're just like, holy shit. Like, that's pretty insane, too. Like, chaos has erupted on this bus in a very short span. After that, the police officer's like, oh, fuck, I did this. And the other one's like, why did you shoot him? Like, and he's like, I mean, I had to. It was just like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Crazy.
Insane. However, then the inmate who was choked out and died comes back as a walker, and he kills our police officer with the shotgun. So, you know, more chaos arrives. Mm-hmm. Police officer dies. He gets like bit and falls to the ground, and his shotgun comes towards us. We also at this time see walkers outside. They start like attacking cars of people. And so we're like, okay, things are like real bad, not just here, but maybe outside and everywhere even. At this point, Bennett, who is the other police officer, he was the one driving the bus, he just pieces out. He's like, fuck this. I don't want to deal with this. There's monsters. And
yep.
And heads out. Yeah, monsters. Land monster. So
traffic monsters.
Exactly. So Vince has the shotgun, and it's him, Justin, and Danny, and they're all chained together. So there's like a chain. There's like a little like bar type thing on the ground that the chain runs through, and they're all connected to each other, but also the walker is moving towards them. You can see that its like ankle will probably break, and like it will be able to get all of you. So Vince tries to shoot the little bar that's holding the chains / shooting the chains, and it doesn't work. The chains are too resistant to the shotgun shell. That option's not going to work. Vince / his friends realize that, well, if we didn't have these chains, though, we could escape. What if we shoot someone's foot off? Because then the chains will be able to run through that, and we'll be able to escape. We'll still have our little metal pad latched to our leg, but we won't have the chains. We can escape. We'll be able to pull it through there if there's not a leg that's attached, essentially. So this is your first choice in the game, which is whose foot are you shooting off? You can shoot off Justin's foot, or you can shoot off Danny's foot. What'd you do?
I shot off Justin's foot, and I just didn't like him as much as Danny. Mm-hmm. Danny seemed to be friendlier, even though he maybe was accused of a worse crime. I think it was kind of a hard decision, but I just didn't like Justin, so I shot him.
My thoughts were pretty similar. As Danny's crime was probably worse, and it was worse, seemingly. I mean, if it is what it sounded like, at least, is worse. But something that you also kind of notice in the conversation is Justin kind of talks like, I always look out for myself. I don't, if I get what's mine, it doesn't really matter what else happens. Whereas Danny seemed to kind of have some loyalty or different things like that. It seemed he seemed to be more of a regular person in that regard. And so for me, I was kind of like, well, Justin's gonna fuck me over later on anyway, probably. So I'd rather band with Danny, even if he might be a weirdo. I'd rather be with him with that in mind, because maybe Justin would sell me out later if he needed to.
Yeah, I mean seems like a reasonable decision for sure. And then also I think Danny was he said he was innocent, which I mean I guess who wouldn't, but at this point in zombie apocalypse, I definitely care what people have done before, but I think I agree, would he be more trustworthy, or would he try to screw me over? And I think Justin would definitely be less trustworthy and try to screw us over.
Yeah, I guess that with that in mind, even our anticipation, we know Walking Dead, we know all these things. So I guess if we didn't know, okay, we're going to be surviving in the zombie apocalypse after this, as opposed to Vince, he's in this new weird situation with unknown monsters. Maybe you would choose different in that regard, but since I'm I probably got to survive with this person later, I'm going to choose the person who won't screw me. Also, it seems we hit the common choice. 70% of people chose to shoot Justin's foot off, whereas 30% shot Danny's foot off. So, we were in a big majority on that one. Also, we have from Callum on Twitter said that they shot Danny's foot off, so different than us. Cool. From here, we'll move on to story number 2. So this is kind of what happens with these two, is you get a short snippet in there, and then they're kind of gone, and you jump into another story that's just separate kind of thing. So story number 2 is Wyatt's story. This takes place on day 41. You've got Wyatt and Eddie driving away from a truck that's chasing them. It sounds like something fucked up went down, that they were having a meet with someone, and then Eddie freaked out and killed someone, and so then that group's people are chasing them down now. Also, as they're getting chased down, Wyatt leans out the window and starts shooting a gun back at the person chasing them in their truck. Later, if you're paying attention, you realize that this person is Nate, who will show up in a future story. Part of the evidence towards this is his front headlight gets shot out by Wyatt, and when you meet Nate later on, that headlight is out. So, kind of cool having that go down kind of as a thing you could see later on.
I think you can also not shoot it out, though. So that'd be interesting to see if you didn't shoot it out, and then later on if it was not shot out. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would. I bet you're right. I'm sure that's what happens. That's cool. After driving away from the highway, you shoot Nate's headlight out, or I did at least, and he kind of swerves off the road. And so as we go away, we just turn off and do a dirt road and are kind of fuck it, let's get out of here. And, hopefully we'll be away from these people. While you drive into the woods, while you're driving through the woods on this dirt road, you run over someone. who turns out to be Bennett, the police officer from the previous story. And after they run into someone, they debate whether it's a person or not, and are like, if it's a person, I feel really bad. We should help them. But if it's a walker, who cares? And so they debate back and forth in the car about, what it was or wasn't. And Eddie feels, I would say, particularly bad here. He's like, if it's a person, we don't want to hurt anyone else, basically. So we should get out and see if they're a person. And understandably, no one really wants to get out. I think you could volunteer, but in mine, we played rock, paper, scissors for who goes out.
Yeah,
okay.
Same.
I was a little surprised in this one. I feel like even if I hit someone, I probably would just leave in that situation.
I would too. Especially in the zombie apocalypse. I wouldn't care as much, probably.
Yeah, I feel like with it being day 40, I don't think I would care anymore. I'd think stuff's been too fucked up by that point. I guess if it was day 2, like Vince's story, then yeah, I would want to get out too, I guess. But this seems deep enough in that I would be like, they're a walker or they will be, I guess.
Yeah. Also, at this point, 40 days in, you're probably not going to just... Well, I guess you did, but you probably wouldn't find a random person just walking around.
Yeah, that seems...
by themselves.
That does seem less likely. I agree as well. So our next decision here is, did you get out of the car or not? We both played rock, paper, scissors. And I lost, so I had to get out of the car.
Yep, same. So, even if you lose, do you still have to get out of the car? Or even if you win, can you still choose to do it? Or does Eddie get forced to go?
I think Eddie's forced to go if you play rock, paper, scissors for it. But I think in your conversation, you could either just claim it or you could pressure him into doing it. Because I was thinking that the first time we played a long time ago, I felt like I remembered being in the car and driving away. And so I felt like this was different than that. I don't remember getting out of the car the time we played, 5 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It was a long time ago. So I just was like, I don't remember this part as much. So that makes me think we stayed in the car then somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was looks like 50% stayed in the car and 50% got out of the car, which I guess makes sense if it's a chance. Rock, paper, scissors, 50-50.
Right, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess it's not too surprising that this one's 50-50. Callum on Twitter did stay in the car, so had the opposite of us here. I don't know if he won or just chose to stay in, but either way.
Yeah.
So for us, what happens is we walk out into the mist, which, again, I feel like if I would have walked out and saw it be that, I'd be like, fuck this. It was a zombie. I would just tell Eddie it's a zombie and leave.
For sure. It's a walker.
But we find out that it's Bennett, and we can choose to try to help him or run away. I think when you help him, you end up killing him, I think. To make sure he doesn't become a walker.
I tried to help him, but you can I think you try to pick him back or pick him up to take him back to the car. I don't think you.
Oh, okay. I tried to help him at first, but then they had another spot where I could retry to help him, and I just ran away instead at that point because I was like, never mind, this isn't working.
Yeah, I did the same thing because walkers start coming, which I guess we're about to say. Yeah. But yeah, then you can. I think you re-choose. Do you want to keep helping or do you want to just leave him?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, walkers start to close in. Eddie ends up leaving you. He just drives away. And you end up just running off into the forest away from him, away from the walkers as things go bad. I guess what happens if you're in the car, from what I read, is Nate catches up to you, and so he's at the car with you, and that's why Eddie runs away, actually, is that Nate showed up there again.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And so he just peels out because he's like, oh shit, it's the guy. kind of thing. So he wasn't trying to ditch you because of walkers necessarily, but Nate showed up and threatened him, so he drove off. So I imagine that's how it would work if you're in the driver's seat, is that you get threatened and can run away.
Yeah.
But kind of crazy, you just run off into the forest is kind of a wild way for your story to end here for us.
Mm-hmm. Presumably to die.
Right.
But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. That's definitely what it felt like. I was like, ugh, walkers close again and you're in the woods. Like, I just kind of imagine you're just like running for days and you're just so tired. Like, that's how I imagine that going. I guess I just thought of this while after I said that, though. I guess you could climb a tree. Walkers like can't climb, so maybe you do that.
Yeah, but they might just if they saw you or smelled you, they might just chill underneath the tree, and then you just.
Oh yeah.
Then you'd be really stuck.
That's true.
I guess it's a gamble.
Yeah, that's true. Ugh.
Yeah,
bad scenario for sure. On to story number 3. We've got Russell's story. This takes place on day 184. So it starts off with Russell walking down the street, and secluded street, just Russell, and as you're walking, you see a car behind you start to come, and you go off of the road, and you can either just stand there or you can try to hide. I tried to hide. Did you try to hide here too?
Yeah, for sure.
I was like, mysterious car? I don't want any of that.
Nope. By myself too.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Right, yeah, exactly. And you lay down next to a walker, and it's actually the walker of either Doug or Carly from season 1, whichever one got shot by Lily, which is pretty cool. That was kind of a wild little connection to see. You're like, oh shit, that for me. Oh shit, that's Carly.
Yeah, same. Mine was Carly too.
Yeah, which that was pretty wild.
I wonder if I don't remember seeing. So unlike 5 years ago when we first played this, I don't remember seeing. It would have been Doug. So I wonder if we didn't hide 5 years ago and then are just more afraid now in how we play.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking that maybe we didn't hide last time too, or if we just didn't notice it, like we missed the detail. Which would be too bad, but this time I was like, that's really cool. Like, good connection. Like I don't know. I thought that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy pulls up next to you and he's like, I see you. Like, you want a ride kind of thing? And we're kind of like, and then we kind of reluctantly are like, all right, fine. And Russell's like, he seems like a high schooler who's maybe like a junior or senior, it seems to me.
Yeah.
So
he's like kind of. I mean, he's definitely like can hold his own in a fight, but he's not old.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And Nate, I don't know, seems to be in maybe his 20s or 30s, something like that.
Yeah.
And Nate asks you to join him. Ultimately, I think you have to no matter what, but I was like, all right, fine, I'll take a ride. My grandma lives here. Can you take me there? And Nate's like, okay. You get inside the car, and Nate's definitely a crazy person and a bit of an asshole. He's like drinking whiskey. He offers you some, which I didn't take.
Yeah, no, definitely. I didn't take any either.
And then...
So you're trying to get me drunk.
Then he starts talking about girls, and he's like, do you know any hot girls? Like, do you know any... I think he says, do you know any tail? It's like, God, fuck this guy. He's such a tool. And a bad person, but a tool at this point. Then he's like driving, and he sees a walker that was a woman walking up, and he's like, I bet she was a 10 in her day, like kind of thing. And we're like, and he stops the car, lets the walker walk up, and starts to unroll the window, and you're like, yeah, she's a 10, like, Jesus Christ. Like,
yeah, he's nuts.
Yeah, he's totally insane. Like, and before this I was like, I don't want to be in this car ride, after this, I'm like, I gotta get out of here. This dude's a psycho. We drive more, and we end up pulling into a truck stop to, I think, get gas and try to find supplies, that sort of deal. But when we park, someone starts shooting at us. They're shooting at us from like a diner that's inside the gas station. And so Russell and Nate have to figure out a plan, which is them ultimately kind of sneaking around the perimeter of the gas station to be able to sneak around from behind. In doing this, it's pretty crazy. You have to like trust Nate, which is not the best. Like he's like,
Nope.
do you want to run first or do you want me to run first and you shoot? And so I chose to run first because I was like, well, if the person who runs second gets shot, I'm okay. If it's Nate, like kind of thing. I was like, I'll take the risks, but of being first, but that kind of thing. So it's a little bit crazy. Ultimately, though, you do make it around back, and you get there, and it's two old people in the diner, like a grandma and grandpa old kind of thing. And the woman is bleeding. She's been injured. I don't know if she was shot by us or if she was hurt previously. But the old man is definitely a little bit disoriented and is like, don't come rob us again. Like, you're always robbing us kind of thing. And we're like, we just got here and you like shot at us, like kind of thing. And then Nate makes a quote unquote joke that's not a joke where he's like, what if we just like shot him and robbed him? Wouldn't that be crazy? Like it's kind of that attitude. So you have the option at this point to say, nah, fuck that, I'm out of here, Nate, or sure, let's do it, I guess. Looks like we both left in this scenario.
Yeah, along with 75% of people. My decision was it's just fucked up, and Nate sucks, and I feel like I'm just gonna get away from him as soon as I can. He's clearly crazy.
Yep, that was my thought process too. Is that this guy is crazy. Also, like, this is super unnecessary. You like don't need to kill these people. They're not a real threat, like, at all. And yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm not into that. So I didn't do that either. Left.
It's kind of shitty that all you can do is leave. You can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, I agree. I wish that there was another option here as well. So yeah, as you mentioned, 75% of people leave. Callum on Twitter, he also left like we did. So 25% of people stay with Nate, and I'm guessing just watch him kill them, which
That's
is wild.
Crazy.
But we leave, and we walk out back, and then we hear 2 gunshots, and it's just like, ugh. That felt pretty bad. Like,
Yep.
That sucked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably should have tried to do something.
Right. Yeah, I really wish that there was an option to try to fight him, even if it got you, like, hurt or killed. I think that was probably the good move that I wish I would have had the choice to do.
Yeah, for sure. I would have tried it too, no matter what the consequences were.
Yeah. This takes us to story number 4, which is Bonnie's story. This is day 220. And it starts with Bonnie and Leland talking. As you're talking, you find out that Bonnie was on drugs when they found her. So Leland and his wife are not old, but older. Maybe like 50s, 60s age.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like pretty old. Not elderly, but they're
yeah,
old.
not as old as the people at the diner, for sure. And then Bonnie, I think, is maybe like mid 30s to mid 40s range, probably. She seemed.
Yeah, I thought she was younger.
Really,
to me.
she might be younger. I think that because I guess also they find out she was using, and it was something that was pretty heavy that she needed like to recover through. So I wonder if she was like doing heroin or something, like, which
Yeah.
that definitely makes you look older. So she could be younger. and just looked older to me because she'd been on heroin a while ago.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. But either way, we do find that Bonnie was pretty rough when they found her, but Leland and his wife decided to save her, and she's been a part of their group ever since. She's been sober for several months now and is doing well. Leland's pretty positive towards her, and she's maybe like bashful, sort of like, oh, thanks, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Leland's kind of creepy.
Yeah,
like he's a good dude. He seems friendly, but kind of weird to me.
Right. There's a little bit of a vibe of almost like if your AA sponsor was hitting on you kind of thing. Like it's a little bit like that. Like it's not full on that, but it sort of feels weird where it's like you've been a supportive, really helpful figure, but you're a little more flirty than you should be for also being in that position. Like it's a little odd.
Yeah, I felt weird about it.
I did too. At this point, Dee shows up, and she's pretty suspicious. She's like, Leland, what are you doing with this girl kind of thing? What secrets do you guys have from me kind of thing? It's pretty awkward. And for me, I tried to just kind of stay out of it / diffuse situations. Be like, it's nothing, not in a weird way, but just like, it's not anything, or just not say anything and let them talk. That was a lot of what I did here.
Yeah, I try to be truthful about, like, we were just talking about the past and how helpful, you guys have been, whatever.
Nice.
And, I mean, I'm sure the result's the same.
But... Yeah, I imagine she's still suspicious and kind of angry, seeming either way. Mm-hmm. She also has a new bag with supplies that she doesn't explain. We're like, Leland asks, where'd you get this? And she's like, don't you worry about it. And then you have the option to kind of like push at it. But I just didn't say anything. I'm like, I'm not going to be into this because it was pretty clear. And she even said this of like, you guys are always ganging up on me kind of thing like that. So I was like, I'm just going to stay out of this. Like, I don't want to be like a third wheel in a way that I shouldn't be or something.
Yeah, I was the same. Because I didn't really care where she got the bag, as long as there's supplies in it.
So we continue walking, and then people start shooting at us. And we run away. As we're running away, Bonnie gets shot in the arm. And we get split up from Leland and Dee. At that point, we end up running into a cornfield, like across a highway, and we'd seen Leland and Dee run in there ahead of us. And so then you get this pretty scary, I would say, like run through the cornfield that's going on, where it's pretty tall and you can't see people, but then occasionally you see shadows and you're trying to like sneak your way through the field without getting caught. You ultimately end up finding like a little wagon wheelbarrow type thing on the ground, and you hide behind it, and you hear someone coming up, and you hit them in the head with a piece of metal that was next to the cart, and you realize that person is Dee, that you've clubbed in the head, and that they're dying, that you like ruptured their skull or something like that, and Dee's fucked up.
Yeah, super gonna die.
Yeah, enough that like she's able to say a few words, but like she's pretty weak sounding. She's like, Bonnie, like she's like is figuring out that it's you. Then she like says that you're a whore, that you always wanted Leland, that you're always a junkie to her, like that kind of thing. It's pretty mean. Which I guess depending on how you play, maybe it is more justified or not, sort of. But yeah, she's really mean, which sucks. Then you're just sitting there, and Leland rolls up and sees that Dee's dead. and ask what happened. And this is where your next choice comes up. You can either lie and, say like, "Oh, I found her like this," or tell Leland what actually happened. What did you do here?
I told the truth. I forgot to put it down on the paper, but yeah, I at this point it seemed like lying would not work. And it just I feel like any other time in, I guess, games we've played, whenever lying comes up in a situation like this, I feel like it always comes back to bite you. So, like, I'm just going to be honest, and hopefully he'll understand because it was an accident.
Yeah.
Even though I killed his wife, like, maybe he'll understand.
Right. Yeah, same thing for me. I told the truth also. And I think, similarly, like, it just seems like lying in games always comes back on you. So I was like, I'll just tell him what's up because, like, we need to be able to trust each other and, like, survive together after this kind of thing. So.
Yeah. And I feel like telling the truth, not that everything just goes away because you were honest, but I feel like it indicates it wasn't malicious or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it would be hard to, like, lie here in the moment and then, like, a couple days later be like, so that was actually me. Like, it seems better to just tell the truth. Callum was on the same page as us as well, told the truth as well here. So we told the truth, and Leland freaks out, understandably, and also gets sort of it's kind of both freaking out as my wife died, which makes a lot of sense, but then also gets pretty like angry towards us. Is like, you killed her, like why'd you want to ruin my family kind of attitude. And we're like, dude, you can't yell, there's bad people, like we have to get away. And he's like, no, I'm gonna yell, kind of thing. So we run off without him, and we hear him get shot as we run away.
Yeah
Sad. Which is a bummer for him. I think if you tell him the truth, then he'll just leave. Or if you lie to him, he'll just leave with you. So, that sort of feels bad to know. Like, maybe lying would have kept... I guess not maybe. Lying would have kept him alive, at least right here. But, I don't know. I thought telling the truth would be better for us long term.
Yeah, it seems like telling the truth is always the better option. But maybe not in this case. I don't remember what happens. I don't know if he'll show up later on or not, or he might just die days later or something. Anyway.
That's true. That's possible. That he just gets killed off screen anyway or something or whatever. So, that's Bonnie's story. Last up, we've got Shell's story, which takes place on day 236 and also day 259. So this one's a little unique. It's a little longer and has a little more in it. So it starts off, and Shell is with a group of people in the diner from before at that gas station. And her younger sister, Becca, is playing guitar for their group in the diner. It seems like they've got some decent camaraderie in their group, and is like, it's not the worst scene you could have, kind of thing. We also find out that some of Vernon's group of people from season 1 are actually part of this group. So some of the cancer survivors support group, that after the boat, some of them are involved here.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that was kind of crazy. I definitely didn't notice that the first time we played. So that...
Yeah, I did.
That was kind of cool to see. And then the last thing that's really important about their group is that Roman's their leader. He's kind of he's a little bit of an asshole, and he's kind of the one who seems to lead their group.
Mm-hmm.
After this, you end up doing some chores around the diner. You have to go feed the walkers outside. You have walkers that are outside that I guess help keep walkers away. Was kind of the thought, or keep maybe thieves away. The walker you have outside, or at least I did, is actually Bennett from the police officer. So that's kind of crazy. Is that his he's the walker that's outside of here now that they captured. Then, also, you see, I couldn't tell when I saw it, which I'm glad I couldn't, but I guess there was a walker eating like a puppy or something.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I walked to where it was. It's like the walker that's by the trash can eating. I guess it's eating a puppy. Yeah,
Aw.
I walked over and I couldn't tell, which I'm glad about, but then when I walked inside, I found out that's what it was, and I was like, that's fucked up. Why'd you do that, Walking Dead?
Yeah, well, I'm glad I didn't see that. I would have messed me
Right,
up.
I know. I was like, yeah, when I realized that's what it was, I was like, I'm going to rage quit this game. Like,
Yeah.
that's how I felt.
Yeah, that sucks. Why would you make it eat a puppy? That's
Yeah.
so
I know.
extreme.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I was like, fuck. But what happens is you go inside, and Becca scares you. And you get mad at her, and they're like, you can't do that. It's dangerous to do that now. Like, this isn't, how the world was. You can't just, like, scare people. That could get you killed. And Becca is hurt by this, because she's like, it used to be fun kind of attitude. This is where I found out about the puppy option. I'm like, I just saw a puppy get eaten. Like, I feel really bad. Which, yeah, awful. Yeah.
Terrible.
While after you talk with Becca and she seems to kind of understand, you walk inside the diner and Stephanie runs in and says, "Something's happening out front. Come out front. You have to be here." And you get out front and there's a guy who they caught trying to steal. He's got a blindfold over his eyes and he's speaking Portuguese. And your group, some people are, let's kill this guy, thieves should always die. Other people are like, we shouldn't kill him, we should just let him go. You can ultimately choose, you end up being the final vote, and you can choose to either, yeah, we kill him, or yeah, we let him go. I ended up deciding to let him go.
I did too. It seemed like people stealing in this case. It sucks and it hurts the like a group, but it seems like it makes sense why you would steal. So I think you'd almost want to like build another ally as opposed to just killing people.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. I was like, I don't really want to kill this guy. Like, I kind of figured our area was maybe secure enough that someone would, like, that he wouldn't come back and steal again later. That was kind of my thought, which unfortunately we find out was wrong. So it fast forwards 3 weeks later. You're playing cards with Becca inside of a camper, and you find out that man and his group came back, stole things, and they also killed Boyd, who was one of the people who was with you on Team Let Him Go, and was one of the guys who was in Vernon's group before. So, sad. With this being the case, Roman has locked the diner down. There's big like security, no one can leave. It's pretty intense. And while we're playing cards with Becca, we find out that she's been sneaking out occasionally to like see what's out there and like do stuff. And we're like, you can't sneak out. Like if Roman finds out, you'll be in trouble. Like we don't want this. Meanwhile, then Roman actually comes up to our camper and knocks on the door and says he needs to talk to us. We're a little worried that he knows about Becca and are concerned. But we find out that he caught Stephanie trying to steal. She was trying to run away with their extra ammo and their medicine, but they caught her. And he says, you know what you have to do in this situation. Last time you didn't kill that guy and it worked out really poorly for us. We have to kill Stephanie. Sorry, that's what we got to do. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which
is, I mean, I guess after having the situation where the guy you let go comes back and kills and steals, it kind of makes sense why you'd want to make sure that doesn't happen again, but it still seems kind of extreme. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard because like you can't like if she was just trying to leave, I think I have I would be kind of like we should just let her go. But since she was stealing from us, I get that like you have to punish that or whatever. But I guess also that like you can't really have prisoners in the apocalypse because like keeping them alive is a resource that you need. Kind of like you need food also.
True.
So it's kind of a fuck situation for sure. And so what you end up doing is say, yeah, I get what we have to do. Like, I'll go grab my gun from the RV and, make this happen. And this is where your final decision in the game shows up, which is you're in the RV, and you can either choose to just run away in the RV and, say, fuck it, we're out of here, or you can go out and kill Stephanie.
So it looks like we actually were different here. So I left in the RV along with 75% of people, and you stayed and killed Stephanie along with 25% of people. What was your thought process?
My thought process was, I think as it relates to Becca, just that like we're probably safer in a group. And so I was like, it's probably better to be here still. And even though Stephanie's my friend, she was stealing from us in a way that would really fuck us over. Like, stealing medicine and your ammo is pretty crazy. Like, that really fucks your group. Like, it's not like stealing with, like, enough food for a day or two and leaving. And so I was like, that kind of shows she's not with, she's not really a friend anyway if she'd, like, fuck our group over that badly on her way out. So I was like, well, if this will keep Becca safe, I guess I'm willing to shoot someone, even though, like, I don't want to. But if it'll keep Becca safe, I'm willing to do this. So that was kind of my thought flow.
Yeah, that makes sense. I felt like it'd be safer to not be in this group because it seemed like it was getting worse and worse. So there was like less and less people, and Roman seemed to be getting more and more strict. And I was also kind of worried about so Becca had been sneaking out. Like, what if Roman decided to kill her, or thought she was stealing? Like, so to me, it seemed like it's better just to leave now, so we don't have to kill our friend. I mean, she probably died anyway. I'm sure Roman killed her, but it's better. I think. I mean, for me, it was like I'd rather just leave and start somewhere fresh. It to me felt a little bit safer.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense because if being in the group is more dangerous than not being in it, then yeah, fuck it, let's get out of here. We also see that Callum on Twitter is the same spot as you, also left in the RV. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Lastly, we forward to the epilogue, which is day 400, and Tavia is at the bulletin board. She's got all the pictures in her hand and radios to someone else and says, hey, I think I found some people that we could get to join our community. I'm going to go look for them. I'll give you an update when I know more. And I guess on their pictures on the bulletin board, it was like they also gave like hey, this is how you get to our camp where we'll be, kind of thing. So Tavia drives up to where the camp is of the 5 characters whose stories we've just learned, and she tells them that she's part of a bigger group that's looking for people. And yeah, if you'd like to join, you're welcome. I don't want to pressure you. I don't want to, tell you make false promises or anything like that, but we have a group. We're looking for people. If you'd like to join our group, you're welcome to, and I can take you there. And the person on the other side of her radio vocalizes a pretty similar thing to Tavia before she walks up and talks to him. She says, the person says, don't force anyone. We only want people who want to come.
Which seems cool. Seems like a decent community.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah, I agree. That does seem pretty promising or positive, because if she was trying to sell it like it's something really good, or trying to be like, well, you'll die out here if you don't join, like that kind of attitude, she would seem sketchy. But she's not that way. Instead, she's like, we got this if you want it. And whether people join or not ends up depending on the choices you make through the game. So some of the choices you make in the game will cause a person to join or not join. So for me, my result ended up being Bonnie joins Tavia and joins the group, but Vince, Wyatt, Russell, and Shell decide to stay at the camp. They don't want to join the group.
Nice. I had Bonnie, Shell, and, well, I guess Becca's with Shell. Bonnie and Shell join.
Okay.
With Becca. I think that's it. I don't think... Yeah, that was it. So I had about half the people joined.
Yeah. So that's kind of crazy that some will join and some won't. And that you could have such variance. You could have all of them join or none of them join. I'd remembered when we played before, I remembered Wyatt joining and Bonnie joining, but I didn't remember if the other people did or not. So that'll be interesting when we play Season 2 to hear what Shell's role is in Season 2 for you.
Yeah, because I wonder if they'll still be in the game in Season 2. Or if they're, like, maybe just a throwaway character or something.
Yeah, my understanding is that anyone who joins ends up in Season 2, and anyone who doesn't. But I don't know what their roles look like once they join or not. So, yeah, that'll be really interesting. I guess we'll both have Bonnie along the way, but for yours, what Shell will be, and I guess that'll be something to look up too about the other three, is what their role is in Season 2 later. Once we're playing those episodes.
I wonder if they stick around. Yeah, I wonder if they stick around for a while. If they're kind of like you see them and they get eaten by a walker.
Yeah,
minutes and.
Yeah, I'm inclined to wonder if it's more of that, but we'll find out, I guess. So I guess that really wraps up the episode. So we'll move into some general thoughts about what we thought about it. For me, I had really forgotten how interconnected the stories were to each other inside this, and also the Season 1 connections. Like, I didn't remember, like, seeing Doug last time, like you mentioned, or I didn't catch that it was Vernon's group before either. The first time we played back when, and I don't even think I realized that these stories were connected, like that they related to each other. So when I played this time and I noticed those things, I was like, that's pretty cool. I like this. Like, that's a cool idea for a DLC.
Yeah, I thought it was really fun too, and I don't remember seeing a lot of the Season 1 references. I honestly don't even remember if I knew that it was Vernon's group. I still, like, some of the characters looked familiar in this playthrough, but I still was like, I don't know, maybe just maybe they're from one of the other DLC episodes or something like that. But I think it's a cool shout out that there's different random connections and characters from Season 1. And it's cool too because it's not like anything crazy where like, oh, Kenny shows up, but it's enough that like small things are woven in and out. I think they did it really well. Yeah,
I feel like it's like the they're not Easter eggs because they're part of it, but almost like the Easter egg for the people who are like really into The Walking Dead, like The Walking Dead games before it or whatever. Like, it's special for them, but if you didn't catch it, it's not like it ruins anything.
Yeah, it's exciting to see the connections. I think I like the DLC. Like, the whole thing is pretty large amount of gameplay, because there's 5, well, I guess technically 6 if you count the epilogue. But yeah, I mean, each one's pretty short. Some are a little bit longer than others, but I think all in all combined, it's pretty good length for the money. I don't remember what it cost when we first played it, but it's definitely a really fun DLC.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it just adds to the story or whatever of it. Like, if you didn't play it, it's not like you would be like screwed or something like that, but it just adds to the overall everything, which is nice. Like, that's pretty cool. And I think is like what you want your DLC to do sometimes. I think especially in a game like this, is that it would do that. And the thing I kind of felt when I played it was like comparable to like a book of short stories almost, where it's like, okay, here's a little bit about someone in the apocalypse at some point in time, which I think is a cool concept kind of in general. Like the World War Z book is kind of like that, where it's just like, here's little parts of someone in the apocalypse as what's it like. And this is sort of reminiscent of that, but it's cool that they tied it together with geography of a certain area of like anywhere near this one gas station that has a diner at it. Like, and here's stories that took place around there, which is kind of cool. Like, it's a cool, almost like history lesson of this one spot in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, that is a pretty interesting way to look at it. It does kind of remind me of World War Z, the book, now that you've mentioned that, for sure. And I think even with that, it does a really good job of developing characters, even in pretty short, small chunks of time. I guess some characters are kind of woven in throughout each episode, but I think it's done really well. Like, even knowing that, like, Nate is in a couple episodes, like, I don't think you don't see him necessarily in all of them, but he's there and doing bad things or whatever. So even that kind of adds to his character. And then, I mean, I think they just do a good job of like building character and interaction, even in, some of these are like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that, which is pretty well done.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised that they made me like care about these characters in such a little span, like that it mattered. Even with pretty limited time. I thought that was cool. Like, I felt like that was well done. That in 20 minutes I could be like, this thing or that thing. One thing I wish that they kind of would have had, like, I don't know if they could have, but I kind of wish that they had permadeath for it. So if you would have like died in one of these stories, that you were just dead. I think that would have been kind of a cool wrinkle to it. Is if you died, then sorry, you don't get the offer from Tavia. Like, I feel like that would have been kind of cool. And like, I know you can't do that in your main game, like having, like when we played season 1, having Lee die or something like that, like in episode 2. Like, sorry, that's not gonna fly. But since these people are like not playable characters in the future, and never were gonna be, which I don't think is really much of a spoiler, but like, a forward or whatever. But I feel like if you could have let him die along the way, that would have been kind of cool. Like, if that was something as like, Bonnie goes with Tavia, Vince dead, or whatever like that. Like, that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, or if everyone just dies and Tavia shows up and there's just no one there. That'd be kind of crazy,
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, I would like that. So I kind of wish they would have done that in retrospect.
That's a cool idea. Yeah, I don't know how that would have worked practically, but I think you're right. Since they're not probably ever going to be playable, I mean, we know they won't be. They won't be playable. You could probably just write them out of season 2 pretty easily.
Right. If their role in season 2 is going to be more minor, then if they died before they got there, that's the same as them not choosing to go. Like,
yeah,
right?
Essentially.
So I don't know. That would have been kind of cool. I don't know how that would exactly work, but it would have been interesting. But I guess my last thing for this is ultimately it got me really excited to play season 2. I'm super looking forward to it. Like, I feel like this was a good throwback of getting into Walking Dead. I know that we've obviously played these games and like them quite a bit, but season 2 definitely feels a bit less familiar, and seeing how much of this felt not too familiar was good, and I think has me pretty stoked to get to actually see season 2 kind of start to happen.
Yeah, same. I think season 2 is definitely one of the more fuzzy games in my memory, so it'll be really cool to get to re-experience that.
Yeah. Cool. Do you have any other thoughts on anything, or are you good?
No, I'm
Sweet.
Gucci.
Okay. Last up, we've got a little bit of listener feedback from people. First up, we've got Alyssa on Twitter who says, I liked it. It was interesting to experience these stories of different characters. It's a bit of a shame that they didn't matter later on, as far as I can tell. Seeing the corpse of the season 1 character in one of the stories was a shocking moment. Yeah, totally shocking. That was wild to just be like, oh my god, that's Carly.
Yeah. I liked those kind of throwbacks. Yeah. Tom on Twitter says, I thought they did a great job of making you feel and care about the character decisions so quickly. However, I can't remember any relevance the game had on the next one. Yeah, I guess maybe that answers some of our questions about the characters being... I wonder if they just kind of are throwaway characters in the next game.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of wondering based on the comments, too. It seems like that's probably the case.
That's a bummer.
Harley on Twitter said, I thought it was kind of cool that you could see the corpse of whoever you saved at the beginning of Season 1, Carly or Doug. It reminds me of how much the choices mattered in that game. That is cool, as it does... you do kind of feel the weight of your decisions before, again, kind of thing. And like, oh man, that was really heavy when Lily shot that person. Or
Yeah.
man, I was so pissed when Vernon stole our boat.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. Gaming Fusion on Twitter says, I thought it was alright, though I wish it led into Season 2 better and had a bit more impact in that regard. So it seems like that's kind of a common critique, is that it's fun, but it didn't, maybe there's some letdown with how impactful it was into the game going forward.
Yeah. And Mark says, I always find with Telltale games that I fondly when I remember them... restart. Mark on Twitter says, I always find with Telltale games that I remember them fondly when I play them once. But once I see the inner workings, they usually don't hold up. I recall enjoying 400 Days quickfire scenarios. I don't recall them having too much impact on Season 2, though. So, I guess two things. I think the one on there is similar to what several people said, is I don't remember it having much of an impact on Season 2. Yeah, that theme seems pretty common. And I believe it's probably true. I can't really remember that either. Like, I just don't remember. Which, I guess if I don't remember, then it probably wasn't too big. I guess in fairness, on the other side, I don't know what the... Like, if you develop it, since people can choose, like, they can end up based on your choices to go or not, I wonder if it's, like... how do you... I wonder how you can do that, like, if they could have a major role in Season 2, but also have the option of not coming, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's technically possible, but they essentially have to write 2 games, you know, or like more than 2. So if Vince comes but someone else doesn't come and they're both main characters, they have to write a whole new narrative for just one of them versus if they both came, you know? Like, it'd be... I don't know if that's possible.
Right. I was thinking, like, what? If Vince comes, he's the main character in this episode, but if he doesn't come, then Wyatt does the same thing? Like, or something, you know? Like, I don't know exactly.
Yeah, but then what if Wyatt doesn't come too? Like, it's kind of... It'd just be so many variables you'd have to account for. I don't know if it's... Yeah, I just don't know if it's reasonable.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of my thought. So it's like... I don't know. Maybe it's the limits of the option. So, like, maybe you can't expect more, and that's okay, but it is still a little hard to reconcile, also.
Sure.
But I think the other point that Mark makes just about Telltale games is you remember them fondly when you play them once, but when you play them more than once, you see the inner workings a bit more. I think that's pretty interesting, you know, being people who do really like choice-based games. And so I think that, like, especially for me, hold them in really high regard for that first time. But I do think that is true, is that when you do play them more, you do lose some of that. And I mean, I don't know that I expect to feel the same way, but it is a little different interacting with it a second time.
Yeah, which, I mean, yeah, I agree. I think it makes sense because a lot of the appeal is like not knowing how your your choices will affect things. But then once you kind of figure out how they might affect things or how they did in your previous playthrough, you do lose some of the excitement or like the replayability of it goes down.
Right.
So I think I agree. Like I don't know if I'd say it doesn't hold up, but I do think that like other games, it loses replayability as you play it.
Right. And I guess actually thinking about it is like with Telltale games, they're the most, choice 1 or choice 2 of like any of the choice-based games we've played. It's very like concrete that way. Life is Strange, I would say, has slightly more than that, but not like substantially more. But you could see a little bit more variance, I think. But then if you went further to like Detroit Become Human, that one has a lot of choices, and I would imagine that one, a second playthrough, probably would hold up the most of any type of choice thing, because you could probably take a pretty different route versus like maybe something like with a Telltale game, your route is probably more similar than different, versus like Detroit, it could be pretty wide.
Yeah, that actually is a pretty good that's a pretty good comparison. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So, I guess that is everything we got, though. So, I guess thanks for writing in, talking about 400 Days. And we're going to be starting Season 2 right away. That's going to be what our next episode will be. The next time we're going to, just start chucking through that. So, I'm excited to continue that adventure for sure.
Oh, yeah. It'll be fun.
But yeah, in the meantime, if you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do that a few ways. You can go on Twitter at StoryEverPod, interact with us there. You could also send us an email at TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed@gmail.com. Our website is TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed.com, and that's got the backlog of our episodes. We've done, for Walking Dead, we've done all of Season 1 and also all of the final season, Season 4. So we got a bunch on there if you want more Walking Dead. And if you'd like to support the podcast financially, you can do that by going to patreon.com/TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed. There, for as little as $1 a month, you can become one of our supporters, and we do a monthly topical episode that has been fun. We talked about like our favorite Life is Strange characters, our favorite Pokemon, stuff like that. So, or no, not our favorite characters from Life is Strange. Our favorite. We ranked the episodes. But we also talked about our favorite characters in general. That's what it was. So, a couple different options there. Also, if you'd like to rate and review our podcast on iTunes or Podchaser or wherever you get podcasts, that'd be super helpful just to increase visibility and get more people who love the games we love together. So, that'd be awesome. And, I guess that's the episode, and we'll see you next time.
Yep, see ya.